Okay, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad you could be here for today's 2021 Exchange Fastpitch event. My name is Amelia Josephson, and I lead the Financial Solutions Lab work here at the Financial Health Network. Before we kick things off, I will share Financial Health Network's antitrust statement on the previous slide. So while we want to foster an open dialogue and create an atmosphere of trust, we want to be aware of what may appear to be antitrust conflicts. At the Financial Health Network, we abide by and require our attendees to abide by the spirit and letter of antitrust laws. So with that out of the way, we can turn to our agenda slide. For our agenda today, we want to keep things fairly informal, so I'll encourage you all to introduce yourselves in the Zoom chat, share the name of your organization and where you're joining us from today, if you'd like to. I'll give an overview of the grant challenge and the exchange program, and we'll have some time for Q&A about the grant before we dive into pitch presentations. We'll have 2 rounds of pitches, each followed by 15 minutes in breakout rooms. So you'll have time to ask your questions of the organizations pitching today and get to know other folks in attendance before we wrap up. Next slide, please. The Financial Solutions Lab Exchange supports nonprofit fintech partnerships to advance a more inclusive fintech landscape, resulting in more products designed for and delivered to underserved communities. We provide a membership and grant program, which we're here to talk about today, that enables nonprofits and fintech providers to collaborate and swap insights on building high-impact partnerships to further financial health. We're privileged to work with a wonderful cohort of grantees. Our 2020 cohort is wrapping up at the end of June. And you can read more about the cohort on our Financial Solutions Lab Exchange website, but I'll just share briefly a little bit about some of these partnerships because I think it will help give an idea of the kinds of solutions and partnerships that we support here at the Exchange. So you'll be hearing from one of our 2020 grantees, FinEquity, later today during the pitches. They're a fintech that partnered with a nonprofit lender called Hebrew Free Loan Society to provide credit education and reentry loans. Canary and Spring4 are working through the employer channel to provide trusted resources and hardship grants to employees facing financial difficulties. Change Machine is working with historically Black colleges and universities to test and vet fintech products. Compass Working Capital engaged a tech provider called Nxt to work on a remote enrollment portal for their clients under the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. The Directors Council is a group of nonprofits that is implementing a tech-enabled benefits cliff calculator and tool called Leap Fund with their clients. Neighborhood Trust Financial Partners is providing financial counseling to borrowers using the AM Money student loan platform. And Save Our Life and Steady are actually both tech platforms, Save Our Life being a nonprofit, and they're referring clients or users to each other to boost savings among folks using the Steady platform to identify opportunities to earn additional income and vice versa. So that's a very quick and dirty overview of our 2020 cohort, but hopefully some of you will head to our website to learn more, and we can also, of course, answer questions that you may have. On the next slide, you'll see our Financial Solutions Lab Exchange team, myself, Amelia Josephson, and my colleague, Megan Skaggs, who you'll be hearing from a bit later in today's event. She'll be emceeing the pitches. And we're also privileged to be working with Credit Builders Alliance as our advisor on this year's grant challenge. So I would love to turn it over to Maria Sennett, who will introduce herself and share a little bit more about CBA's work in this space.
Thank you so much, Amelia, and thank you to the Financial Solutions Lab team for hosting us and for leading this important initiative. We at Credit Builders Alliance are honored to support the 2021 Exchange Challenge on improving the financial health of justice-involved individuals. My name again is Maria Sennett, and I'm the Manager of Programs and Stakeholder Engagement at CPA, and I've had the pleasure of leading our work supporting returning citizens over the last 4 years. CPA is a DC-based national membership network comprised of nearly 600 asset-building nonprofits across nearly all 50 states, DC, and Puerto Rico. We serve as a bridge between the nonprofit sector and the credit industry, offering technical services such as access to credit reports and credit reporting, access to capital through our CDFI intermediary CBA fund, as well as capacity building for nonprofits and practitioners. We do this through our signature credit as an asset training, reporting technical assistance center, and credit building program design support at the organizational and municipal levels. We strive to cultivate communities of practice, connecting members supporting a variety of communities with credit building, including those who are justice involved. While we certainly do not claim to be experts in the criminal justice work, we know that credit is key to securing access to employment, to housing, transportation, entrepreneurship ventures, and even supporting the closure of the racial wealth gap for BIPOC communities who are disproportionately affected by incarceration. Over the last years, we've been able to leverage our subject matter expertise in credit building and our national platform to lead significant work around second chance efforts, including releasing 3 toolkits, providing guidance for organizations supporting returning citizens with credit building, entrepreneurship, and reentry product development. We've also organized national convenings in partnership with some folks on the line. It's great to see so many people from all over, and with some criminal justice stakeholders, as well as we've supported the integration of credit building programming for returning citizens via existing or emerging work through a few cohorts of CBA members. So the richness of our work is really the opportunity to lift the practices of those leading this important work on the ground and to share the learnings for the greater good. So through this 2021 Exchange Challenge, we look forward to seeing and learning from the innovative partnership solutions brought forward by you all. And thanks again for your commitment to this work, and to the Financial Solutions Lab team at the Financial Health Network for including us in this initiative. Back to you, Amelia.
Great, thanks so much, Maria. Excited to be working with you on this and to share that our grantees will also have the benefit of your guidance throughout the grant term that begins in October. As you all know, and that's the reason we're all here today, our 2021 Grant Challenge is focused on improving the financial health of justice-involved individuals through the work of nonprofit fintech partnerships. FHN, Financial Health Network, began research in the space around the financial impacts of involvement with the legal system a couple of years ago, and continues to evaluate the ways in which we can leverage our stakeholder network and our platforms to improve financial health outcomes for justice-involved individuals and their families. And the Exchange Grant Program is, of course, a part of that. We plan to award up to 5 $50,000 grants and announce our grantees in the fall. Our grantee cohort will meet periodically with our team and with their fellow grantees throughout the grant term, which will run from October of this year through June of next year. And those meetings are opportunities for peer learning across the cohort and for technical assistance from peers, from our team, from Maria, who you just heard from others at the Financial Health Network or in our network of stakeholders and supporters. And if we turn to the next slide, we do have a few minutes for your questions about the grant program. So not about the organizations who will be pitching later in today's event, but questions for me or for my colleague Megan that we can answer. You should feel free to unmute yourselves and just jump in. But there are also other ways to engage. If you would like to email exchange@finhealthnetwork.org, you can set up a meeting with us. Or you can use the Calendly link that I'll drop in the Zoom chat to attend our exchange office hours. So I will mute myself in the hopes that other folks might unmute and ask any questions that are on your mind before we dive into the pitches. Okay, I'm taking this as a sign that maybe we, did a great job putting together the grant materials and answering folks' questions through the application criteria we shared on the website. But if folks would rather share a question in the chat, that happy to read questions from the chat that folks might have as well and answer that way. I know sometimes unmuting in a big event can be a little off-putting.
Jen?
Hi, can I ask a quick question? Does the organization, the nonprofit, have to work exclusively with justice involved people, or can it be just part of the people that they work with?
That's a great question. Yeah, it does not have to be the exclusive kind of client base. So I think one of the questions that we ask as part of the application is how many individuals you expect the partnership to serve. So you could just say, there we have a client base of X number, and we know that, maybe 10% are justice involved, and those are the recipients that will be the focus of the grant work, something like that. So yeah, just feel free to share that information in the application when and if you apply, and it doesn't need to be the sole focus of the nonprofit's work. Thanks for asking.
I have a follow-up question to that. Do you, is there a minimum percentage of justice involved individuals that, no? Okay, thank you.
Nope. Yeah. And I think even the number of individuals served by the program is, or by the pilot, is flexible. There's no kind of cutoff where if you're working with fewer than a given number, we wouldn't consider the project. I think we know that this space is very fragmented because different jurisdictions face different challenges. And so what we'll be looking at is not necessarily the scale of the project that you're able to propose right away, but the kinds of insights that can be gleaned, or maybe the scale potential, or the potential to be for the work to be replicated by others in the space.
Hi, my name is Cecilia. I am at the Virginia Beach, in North City of Norfolk. Just real quick, you said there was going to be 5 grants. That was going to be, I didn't get the amount. And then with that, you said it can be a pilot program as well.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So the amount will be $50,000, and that will be shared across the 2 partners, so the nonprofit and the fintech. When we make the grant agreements, the actual counterparty to the agreement is the nonprofit, and then we transfer the $50,000 to them, and then up to $24,000 of that can be dispersed to the fintech. But it's really on the partnership to work out the budget for the plan, which you don't have to do as part of the application. We only ask that as we're selecting finalists, because we know it can be a barrier to applications to have to put all that on paper right away. And so, yeah, it could be a pilot. As we said, it could be that you want to try something new, or it could be an existing partnership that you want to, expand or build on using this funding, or some existing work that doesn't currently have, a fintech component, and you want to bring that in. So it can be, as we say, emerging or existing partnerships. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Hi, I have a question about, I guess, the number of nonprofits that could connect with the grant. We partner with other nonprofits and other schools to bring our programs there. So is that a feasible, because would 2 organizations receive the grant as well, or can it just be one as a lead?
It would be one as the lead, but you could also submit multiple applications with each of your, nonprofit partners if you wanted to. But we can also, if you wanted to follow up, set up some time to talk more about the work that you're doing and how to position it for the application.
Okay, Thank you.
Yeah, of course. So I will turn things over to my colleague Megan to MC our pitch presentations, but feel free to reach out to me as further questions come up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so glad to see so many familiar faces and names, as well as some new add-ons. My name is Megan, as Amelia mentioned, and I believe I've been in communication with quite a few of you over the course of this process. I'll be guiding us through the pitch presentations today. So I wanted to start us off by giving you an idea of what the setup will look like. So each organization will get around 4 minutes for their fast pitch, 2 of which they'll use to present about their organization in general, and then 2 of which they'll use to discuss what issue they're hoping to serve and what kind of partner they're looking for. The presenters won't be taking questions in that time frame because we're trying to keep it quick. So the way we've built this out is there will be 2 rounds of 3 different organizations. The first round will have 3 organizations, and then we'll have breakout rooms to follow. So each organization that is presenting will get their own individual breakout room, and each attendee will have the option of choosing which breakout room they want to go into to ask questions of. And we'll do the same thing. We'll replicate that for round 2. So you'll have the option to interact with a lot more folks that way. We'll be providing gentle reminders at the close of the 4-minute mark for those who are presenting. And we would like to remind everyone that during the course of the presentations, if you can keep your cameras off while the individual is presenting, just so we can have that focus on that individual, that would be much appreciated. If you have any questions throughout, be sure to put it in the chat and I'll be happy to answer them. But I'm really excited to learn about all of the different ideas and organizations that we have here today. So without further ado, we'll move on to the first pitch. We'll be hearing from Nxt Wave Founders, and Luisa Bracamonte will be presenting for us. She is a founder and president and CEO. It's all yours, Luisa.
Thank you, Megan. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity. My name is Luisa Bracamonte, and I am the founder, president, and CEO of Nxt Wave Founders, a non-for-profit organization that is pioneering new approaches to make entrepreneurship more inclusive. Our focus is in rural America, and our scope of work is nationwide, although we are based in Tampa, Florida. Our goal is to move upward 1 million neglected young adults experiencing extreme poverty by 2030. And our mission is to scale high impact measures and evidence with a vision to live in a sustainable world that is free from extreme poverty. Our target demographics is rural America, focusing primarily on disproportionately impacted demographics such as women, people of color, indigenous, and Black Americans, extremely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic. Can we go to the last slide, please? I think I covered my demographics. Now, the economy divide is sharp and rising, and in the decade since the Great Recession, middle to lower classes have been experiencing a wealth shrink by over 20%. Nxt Wave Founders, we want to eliminate barriers by creating a consortium of early stage founders that are focusing on developing transformational solutions to create opportunities for people to increase wealth in the near term while building towards a long-lasting vision that addresses root causes. That's why we are launching Close the Circle, a pilot in FinTech that was born from a grassroots movement intended to help 350 students at Indio High School in Desert Sands, California. Their assistant principal, Richard Pimentel, went driving through low-income streets, hoping to track his missing students last summer. In his journey, he found that these students were facing numerous social, economical, and health barriers that in many cases put him in trouble with the law. At that moment, we knew that we had to do something to help, and we created Close the Circle in order to reduce barriers in the very short term, but also in the long term to solve the poverty issue in 3 ways. First, streamlining the application process for public assistance services, not having city residents to reapply for each one. Number 2, creating a network of care that will allow case managers and residents work together in implementing the best interventions possible, and by facilitating communication between them via text and video chat. And number 3, incentivizing CBOs and facilitating pathways to economic mobility through the financial services that we're looking to create, as well as educating our demographics. The partners that we are looking to reach out, hopefully through this medium, is nonprofits that are specifically working with city public assistance services. And that includes organizations that are involved in helping people that have been marginalized due to their involvement in the justice arena, and service providers that are creating solutions for rural America at low cost and in alignment with a low carbon footprint approach. So we offer a capacity building integrating an ecosystem that is serving 12 million of Americans severely impacted by COVID-19, and we operate nationwide. I'm looking forward to answering all your questions in the break room, and thank you so much for your time and for giving me this opportunity. A special thanks to Financial FinHealth Network for creating this amazing network.
Thank you so much, Louisa. That was lovely to hear more about the organization and what you hope to do in the course of the next year to really make an impact on individuals' lives. So if you want to hear more from Louisa, you can join her, as she mentioned, in the breakout room. Now we'll be jumping into the pitch from Chainless Change, and Mark Mitchell will be guiding us along that journey. He is the CEO. So Mark, the floor is now yours.
Thanks for the opportunity. My name is Mark Mitchell. I'm the CEO of Chainless Change. We are a recovery community organization that serves justice-involved people in South Florida. We work in both Broward and Miami-Dade counties. We are also a peer-led organization. And so the majority of our staff are people who are in recovery from behavioral health conditions or a history of substance use, and also have overcome challenges associated with having a criminal arrest record. Our mission is to serve as a community of recovery, advocacy, and support for people negatively impacted by the criminal legal system. We do this by being culturally responsive to the needs of people who are justice impacted. We serve as a conduit for building and linking people to recovery communities. And we organize to challenge injustices that result in people being incarcerated or their rights being violated as they enter and move through the criminal legal system. You can move to the next slide. We have two central programmings. We have our CAMP program, which is communities advocating for and mobilizing for power. We do a lot of organizing through that initiative. And then we have our POWER program, which is peers optimistically working to end recidivism. Our peer program engages justice-involved people in recovery planning while they're still incarcerated. Those recovery plans include addressing behavioral health conditions, their socioeconomic status, and developing goals. So when they return back into the community, that they actually have a plan and they understand what resources are in place for them. All of our participants are paired with a peer specialist. So as someone who was previously justice involved, who also is in recovery and has been able to sustain wellness for at least 3 years. Our program, we serve through that initiative 85 people, but we also have a wait list of over 400 people who are wanting to receive our peer support services through the Power Program, and we simply just do not have the capacity. As we seek to grow and ensure that we create a recovery-oriented system of care that that creates opportunity for people to be self-sufficient, we understand that there are critical needs that we have to be able to address in order for our participants to avoid recidivism or relapse. Because many of them are returning back to the community with little work experience, as well as very little access to employment opportunities. And so what we are interested in doing is pairing, connecting with a partner who can help us to develop and streamline a process to connect local businesses to our participants and enroll them into being a second chance employer. So they would be able to access all of the benefits, the federal tax incentives that are available for people who hire individuals with criminal arrest records. We, like I said, have a list of over 400 people on our wait list. We're serving 85 people through our Power Program. And we also have a list of over 500 employers who have previously hired people with arrest records, but are not taking advantage of tax incentives or may not be leveraging the ability to bond potential employees who have criminal arrest records so that they can avoid any kind of financial liability for things that may happen while working. We understand that those individuals who have previously hosted persons with criminal arrest records may be inclined to hire more folk if they are simply aware of the tax incentives that are available. And there's a streamlined process to connect them to people who are just as involved in our community. And so what we're doing is looking for a partner who can help us to develop that process, to also host second chance job fairs and on a virtual platform. And so we really want to use technology to leverage the onboarding of potential employers in our community to make accessing public benefits accessible and to host virtual job fairs. Thanks so much for your time, and I look forward to speaking more about what we're working on.
Thank you so much, Mark. That is so empowering. I love the name of your program. I think that speaks volumes to the work that you're doing, and the fact that there are so many people out there who are vying for this kind of assistance definitely also speaks to the work that you're doing, and hopefully we'll continue doing with a new partner. So looking forward to learning more, potentially in the breakout rooms with you as well. So thank you so much for your presentation, and we'll be moving on to the next pitch. Here with us today is Resilience Education, and Julia Rupp will be guiding us through their pitch. She is the project manager, and we're looking forward to learning more, Julia.
Thank you so much. And yes, as Megan said, hi everyone, I'm Julia Rupp, a project manager representing Resilience Education today. We're a nonprofit organization based out of Charlottesville, Virginia, that is scaling towards national impact. So since our pilot program out of the Darden School of Business began nearly 10 years ago, we at Resilience Education have been on a mission to stop cycles of incarceration by improving employment outcomes and reentry success through high quality business education. We partner with top business schools, currently Darden and Columbia, and their MBA students teach our entrepreneurship, business, and personal finance curricula across 3 prisons in Virginia and 2 in New York. Starting this fall, we'll even award course credit through the University of Virginia that will open up a wealth of higher education opportunities to our students. But what does this mean for the individuals we work with post-release? So each year we receive waves of LinkedIn connections, Facebook messages, and outreach from a growing community of over 400 alumni. Many of our returning citizens are well established, but remain disappointed by the lack of centralized resources and support when they get home. Next slide, please. So this is really the core problem that we are trying to address. figuring out how to plug formerly incarcerated individuals into the power of opportunities and social capital that previously hasn't been easily accessible to them due to their incarceration. Our state-validated in-prison programs led us to develop a solution that helps solve everyday reentry challenges grounded in the trust we've built in this space. So what does that look like? Inspiration for the resilient professional community, which is described on this slide, our online digital networking and mentorship platform, came from one of our released grads. Carlise called during her lunch break because her car broke down and she wasn't sure how to find a new one. Our courses prepared her for the basics, but after reaching out to us, we were able to connect her with 3 MBAs and another released grad. And by the end of that day, she had a $1,200 car loan. Just this morning, we supported another graduate in completing their 990 form for their business. Our mentor program is helping people apply for new jobs, set up bank accounts, apply to schools and loans, set budgets for their personal and for businesses. Our mentor program is really helping formerly incarcerated individuals get back on a path to wealth building, but we still see a gap in the ability to quickly connect this community to the resources that expedite their success, particularly when it comes to economic challenges. So that's where you might come in. We're looking for an innovative fintech partner whose solution can integrate into the existing RPC platform and help us scale it to reach national impact. We're open to the types of services this partnership could facilitate, so long as we share a core value in building digital tools that support second chances. Some examples could include wealth and asset management tools, loan matching services, and/or credit building resources. I invite you to join our breakout room to learn more about the resilient professional community and how we could partner. And while I'm here representing the organization today, I invite you to reach out directly to our executive director, Tierney Fairchild, whose email is listed here. As we continue a conversation with any of you, we can provide more information on our programs, our leadership, and ways to collaborate even beyond this grant opportunity. So thank you all.
Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing with us. I'm definitely looking forward to learning more. And I know we touched base before, but it's really interesting learning more about exactly what the stories are of individuals who have been impacted by the program that you all have been working to build out and what that could look like in the future with the right partner. So thank you so much for your time. And I'm sure that people will have plenty of questions as we move into breakout rooms. So without further hesitation, we'll move into the next slide. If anyone has questions, I'm again happy to answer them in the chat. For the next 15 minutes, though, we will have the opportunity to ask questions of those who you just heard from. So we'll be opening up networking style breakout rooms, and you'll have the option of selecting which group you would like to engage with before we move on to the next round of pitches. And just to give a little instructions on how this works, we have a quick tutorial of how to join a self-breakout or self-select into a breakout room. So you'll have an option here. All you have to do is click the button join. Next to the room that you'd like to go into, we'll have the names up, so that should be fairly clear. And if you haven't downloaded the latest version of Zoom, you would have needed that to have that type of option. We will make sure that you get into the right breakout room, so just hang tight. But moving from there, we can go ahead and start opening up all of the breakout rooms, and so you guys can start conversing. Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for your patience as we guided through these virtual breakout networking sessions. We hope that you were able to glean a little bit from your conversations. And if you have more questions, you are more than welcome to contact individuals if they provided their information on the deck. So hopefully that will lead to more fruitful conversations as well further down the road. And so we'll be doing basically the same thing with 3 new participants and pitchers. So moving forward, we want to give the opportunity to give the floor to Iowa Legal Aid. Thank you all for joining us today. Alex, are you in the room and are you ready to present?
I am.
Perfect.
All right, thanks for the opportunity. My name is Alex Cornia. I'm the Litigation Director and General Counsel at Iowa Legal Aid. Iowa Legal Aid is a statewide LSC-funded civil legal services law firm. We provide service to low-income Iowans for free in all 99 counties here in Iowa. We closed over 15,000 cases last year, and serve people in a variety of different areas: family law, housing, consumer protection, collateral consequences, public benefits, education, etc. Over the years, collateral consequences related issues have become a larger part of our practice, and we're about 7% of our closed cases over the last few years, dealing with expungement and record clearance, and, as is relevant to what we'll talk about today, court debt. So court debt is the money that people owe due to their involvement in the criminal, civil, and juvenile justice systems. It's one of the most pervasive after effects of mass incarceration and over policing, and a barrier to self-sufficiency that for many people is impossible to surmount without help. These burdens fall on low-income folks in general and on people of color, and particularly Black communities in Iowa and elsewhere in particular. People who owe court debt are subject to all kinds of sanctions that are even harsher than people who owe private sector debt, such as garnishment, driver and professional license suspension, extended probation, denial of expungement and other opportunities, and even reincarceration in some cases. Over time, this debt has shifted from fines meant to punish and restitution intended to restore victims to simply a shifting of the basic costs of our system of justice onto those who can least afford to pay them. In Iowa, for example, it is not uncommon for someone to owe perhaps $200 in a fine intended to punish, but in the same case owe $2,000 to the state as compensation to reimburse the state for the cost of their public defender. This debt is purportedly limited to the sort of constitutional and statutory requirement that it can only be assessed to the extent that someone has the ability to pay it. However, the concept of ability to pay in this context is proven elusive in the absence of objective standards that accurately account for things like geography, poverty, and other personal and household circumstances. Some states have adopted a loose set of factors to consider in these cases, and no state has either imposed or foreclosed any kind of predictable evidence-based formula for making these determinations. In Iowa, our collection rate for these sorts of costs subject to these ability to pay determinations is less than 2%, which I consider to be pretty damning evidence that these assessments are not being accurately and consistently conducted. However, there are evidence-based models for ability to pay out there that are sensitive to geographic and personal circumstances. One example is the model that the IRS uses for tax collection called the National and Local Collection Standards that uses periodically updated data that comes from various federal agencies, HUD, Department of Transportation, Department of Labor, et cetera, to determine allowances based for things like housing, food, medicine, transportation, and other essential costs based on these geographic and personal and household circumstances. By constructing the standards from these reliable data, the need for debtors to provide voluminous documentation of what they pay in rent, what they pay in utilities, et cetera, is eliminated in the vast majority of cases, as is the courts and the state's responsibility and need to review and parse all of that information as well, which makes it much more administratively feasible to be able to use a model like this that is evidence-based. The main problem with using these standards, I think, is the perceived complexity in applying them. The purpose of this project would be to reduce the perception of that complexity by piloting an easy-to-use, sustainable, public-facing calculator that would compare a particular debtor's circumstances to a modified version of the standards employed by the IRS and generate a fileable PDF form that would make an evidence-based ability to pay recommendation, either when the court is determining how much court debt to impose, or if someone is facing collection actions like a garnishment or incarceration or license suspension, whether or not to impose that sanction based on that person's actual financial reality. The tool will be designed so it could be used either by the debtors themselves pro se, or possibly defense counsel, or even prosecutors, judges, or researchers. Prior calculator projects in other states, there are at least 2 that I'm aware of. They do exist, but I think they haven't taken into account the more sophisticated model of the ability to pay, kind of evidence-based ability to pay standards that the IRS uses, and they also have not really been built in a way that is sustainable. I know some of them now are sort of defunct because the law has changed, but there was really no provisions made to be able to update them. And so their utility is limited. So our project hopefully would create something that could be perpetuated and wouldn't be tied to any one particular institution necessarily, or a public institution. So public funding and continuation of public funding wouldn't be sort of a limit on potential sustainability as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing, Alex. It was wonderful hearing about some of your ideas as well, and hearing you flesh those out for all of us here today. You'll all have the chance to ask more questions of Alex in the next round of breakout rooms. So thank you, Alex, for your time. We appreciate it. Moving on, we will be going into Heartland Alliance, and Catherine will be leading us here today. She is the Director of Heartland Human Care Asset Building. Catherine, thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you so much. And as Megan said, I'm Director of Asset Building Programs at Heartland Alliance. My name is Catherine Soha. Heartland Alliance is a really large nonprofit, primarily located in the Chicago area, though we also serve people in the, Wisconsin and I believe 9 other countries. We at Asset Building are a very small portion of a part of Heartland Alliance called Heartland Human Care Services. Some of the things that make Heartland unique are we have a very robust advocacy, policy, and research team. And so we're really able to leverage the direct social services that we provide into systemic change. And then we also tend to work in coalition. So we partner with other organizations, from large foundations all the way to very small community organizations. And we're able to pool our resources with the expertise, the strategy, the relationships, the passion, the judgment of, emergent issues and next steps that the grassroots organization partners that we have tend to bring to the table. And our work with asset building is, I would say, an example of this. So the work that we're doing with justice involved individuals brings 2 pieces of Heartland Alliance together. So it's asset building with our READY program. Asset building, we ourselves are serving about 1,200 people a year. We run a family self-sufficiency program in conjunction with the Chicago Housing Authority. And we also operate several smaller programs that focus more on matched savings, as well as financial coaching, financial capability workshops, and a lot of train the trainer work. And so READY is an intervention program that focuses on working with individuals in the Chicago area who are at the greatest risk of gun violence. So either as perpetrators or as victims or both. And we partner with many organizations to do street outreach and recruitment for that program. It's on a very quick timeline. We're trying to get the people who are at the greatest risk of gun violence in the next few hours to get into the program and hopefully avoid the possibility of gun violence. So although most of these participants are justice involved, not every single one is, but the majority are. And so the services that we're providing to them include group cognitive behavioral therapy, transitional jobs, other employment services, and also housing. So up to 2 years of housing is available to the folks that we at Asset Building are working with. And so we are providing financial coaching to those folks, including working on budgets, credit building, and providing financial coaching for them to work on a goal that they choose themselves. So the problem that we're really looking at here is how can people build enough credit to sustain their housing past the subsidized housing limits? And then we are also really looking to increase engagement with the participants that we're working with. And it's not just a matter of forgetting appointments. Something is just not completely clicking. It feels like this, a a lot of the financial goals that we're working on people with are just a bit too abstract, and positive feedback is a little bit too remote for people. So possible solutions that we're looking for from partners are ways of building credit, possibly a lending circle. For various reasons, we feel that landlord rent reporting may not be really on the table right now as a solution for people. And then the other thing that we're looking for is some form of gamification to add to our services in the hopes that we can really increase engagement and get people involved and get them to feel like they can receive some sort of positive feedback on a shorter cycle. And so that is what we're looking for. And we have a wonderful master trainer who is involved in this program. And if you end up working with us, I'm pretty confident that it will be a good experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, for sharing more about this. It sounds super interesting. I love the idea of the gamification methods. I think that when you incorporate a little bit of fun into something, it definitely adds to the appeal. So interested to see how that might turn out. We will actually be moving into a video that was pre-recorded for us by one of our last presenters, which is FinEquity. There was a potential conflict of timing, and so they went ahead and recorded this video, so we'll be playing that, but Brianne will be in a breakout room for us after this final round. So we'll cue that.
Hi, I'm Brianne. I'm going to be pitching for FinEquity. We are a new initiative focused on building a bridge to financial power, and I want to talk to you specifically about what bridges we're trying to build and why. So we want to build financial power in the financial futures of community members who have experienced long-term incarceration. That's what our mission was set out. Our vision was set out when we launched at the end of 2019, early 2020, at this kind of start of the pandemic. We're a nonprofit startup committing to advancing the financial futures, as I mentioned. We create digital tools that address the most common financial challenges threatening the ability for those community members who are returning home to remain and thrive in their community. And so we help those who are impacted by incarceration build their financial power through a mix of education, credit, debt, and capital resources. And our flagship product right now is making sure that we address people who are coming home who are credit invisible by providing them a no fee, no interest credit building opportunity so that they can establish credit history with all 3 credit bureaus within 6 months. And so our target demographic is really individuals and families directed and directly impacted by incarceration. Currently, we have this flagship product, and we also offer an in-prison correspondence course in the state of New York on credit, debt, and access to capital. So the specific type of problem being solved, each year of incarceration can drop one's credit score by 32 points. And so based on our conversations, community research, and kind of research of others, we estimate that a good quarter, if not, around either a third or a quarter of people coming home will have no credit score because they went in so young or have had so much inactivity and dormancy in their credit history that the credit can go stale. And so what this does, which is create a really big problem for people who are recently released. Within their first year or 2 years out, they'll be blocked from apartments and higher education, loans, certain employment opportunities that require a credit check, Social Security benefits, and public health care insurance all require that your identity be verified by your credit report, information on your credit report. So these are credit barriers that really seem unnecessary. And we wanted to create solutions that just get people over these hurdles that shouldn't exist in the first place. There's also a kind of more financial element to this, which is we want to make sure people have more money remaining in their pocket that supports their reentry journey, as opposed to having to pay higher interest, higher premiums, higher charges simply based on their credit situation. And so what we're looking for in a partner, there's really kind of 3 buckets. The first is we've been running our tool as a pilot directly to community members and have a number of people involved, a number of users involved in our current establishing their credit history. especially a good third of them being credit invisible. We want to open this up to second chance employers. So organizations who employ people who've been in justice involved, or service providers who have their entire clientele and want to offer this as a kind of employee benefit. That's something we're interested in. We're also open to lending partners. We currently have a really great set of lending partners, but we want to expand past the states of New York, Texas, and California. So let's talk. And then if you have any interest in debt payment matching, credit, managing kind of credit, matching savings programs, things like that, we're open to chatting about that too. I think that's a little further down the line, but we'd love to have a conversation about it to see what's possible. The biggest thing to know about us is we really try to make sure we're building tools that are agnostic of people's banking status, because people can be all along the spectrum, including unbanked, using Chime, using Bank of America. It's really the full spectrum. So we want to make sure we have a partner that is open to building technology and tools that can support all of those different scenarios that people might come to the table with. So look forward to talking to you all during the Q&A. We will be there present for the Q&A. So looking forward to our chat.
Thank you, Brianne, for sending that in and for joining us here today. With that said, we will move into our next round of breakout rooms.
Okay, so I think folks are mostly back from the breakout rooms. We just want to share some next steps and reminders. I'm going to put the link in the chat to the Calendly so folks can sign up for our office hours. You can also email us at exchange@finhealthnetwork.org if you'd like to set up time to chat about your idea. Applications do close on June 30th, so we want to make sure folks are forming partnerships and getting their applications in. And then once that application period closes, we may be reaching out to request some additional information that will help us select our grantees, which we will announce in the fall. And on the next slide, we are having our Emerge Financial Health virtual conference, June 8th to 10th and 23rd. And this will be an immersive virtual event introducing you to the leaders shaping financial health's future and sharing lessons from the pandemic and recent social justice movements that define our roles in a better financial future for all. So I hope you'll be able to join for some or all of that event as well. And I think all that remains is to thank you all for joining today. I really enjoyed, just how interactive the event was and hearing from all the great orgs that were able to pitch and to join and, make connections in those breakout rooms. So hope we can all stay in touch. And again, our virtual door is open if you'd like to reach out to our team and chat about your application or your work. Thanks so much.